let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused. This door.
So we're here to keep the doors open for us and
Yeah.
everyone, and to be safe and appropriate, and safety is equally important to keeping the door open. And the door open is not just that physical door; it's my heart open, my mind open, and the ability to be receptive and present to myself and to others. Next, we'll have another song, followed by a meditation from Art and the opening prayer by Steve Sanders. So, welcome once more.
I know I'm speaking to the choir about meditation, so I know you all meditate. I asked myself the question the day before I came, just exactly what is meditation? And in my mind, meditation is resting in my heart, being present to the moment, being aware of other people and other things. Try not to focus on one spot. And then what happens to me is I turn into my child mind and listen carefully to what my heart speaks to. So let's take a few minutes of gentle breathing exercise. Just don't try to force your breath, just let it breathe. And count your in-breaths to 10. If you skip, you have to start over again. Okay. It's like a little game we play to get ourselves centered. And from your center, push out gratitude into the world. Gratitude for life, for freedom, for awareness, intelligence, ability to communicate, beauty, hummingbirds. Everywhere you look, God is. God is, I am. So from the center of my being, I push out gratitude into the world for being, for life. Push down resentments and ill feelings and judgments. Pull up love, and compassion and empathy. Child mind. Okay, 3 deep breaths. God bless. Peace be still.
So I invite you to continue to have your eyes closed as we turn our attention on that one magnificent life. Whatever's going on with us, we allow the Word of God, the name of God, to raise whatever that is higher and higher and higher in our consciousness. We know that God, that light, that love is eternal. It is all power. It is all divine intelligence. It is right action. It is beauty. It is balance. It is perfection. It is wholeness. It is timeless. It exists only in the now. And in the now, we see and know and claim that one life, we realize that one life is our life, right here and right now. Every part of us, every fiber of our being, our body, our spirit, our mind, is one with that life. There is no separation between us and that one. There is no spot where God is not even the black spots that Reverend Marina and her talk about. God is there in the midst of all that. And so we see and know, we open ourselves up. And we ask of that law to bless us fully and completely with the greatest good that we can stand in this moment. We know it is so very done already that life knows all the answers to all our unspoken prayers. And it has already said, yes, my beloved, it is done. And so it is.
So our speaker today is Maureen. And Maureen really doesn't need an introduction. But the standard kind of Toastmaster thing is to present somebody even if they're known. And I was thinking about all the time that Maureen and I have been together on different projects, from Toastmasters to the center to other things, and realizing what a great accomplice, a great presence to be with, and just like this last week, to be part of supporting actors, if you will, at the convention, and having that opportunity to, and other ways to be together. And I realize that I appreciate what a warrior, what a strong person she is as far as a leader and a thinker and a teacher. And what I've experienced recently is another aspect that I had overlooked, and that is, I guess it'd be, Renee Brown would say, vulnerability. A person who's able to be present with their emotions and with difficulties and problems and such, in such a way that I feel invited in. So give a little applause for her as she stands and presents her talk on the black spot.
Hey, Maureen.
Thank you, Tim. And I invite you to check this out and think about, what do you see on this display?
Black spots.
Lots of white.
Black spot and lots of white. Good for you.
Lots of
Good for you.
possibility around it.
This is an elevated group. A group beyond. The black spot in a talk I heard once represents, and I really like this because it represents the problems in our life, the issues, the challenges, the gosh darn, and we get stuck in them. And coming out of the pandemic, sort of, and then going back in, I thought this was a really good symbol for that pandemic, and how some of us took that black dot and covered all of our windows and all of our lives and our cars and everyone that we encountered with a black spot. And some of us dwelled in the white. And some of us went back and forth. But to be clear, what is a syndrome? I can talk about syndromes because I have a degree in psychology. A syndrome is a group of signs or symptoms that occur together and characterize a particular abnormality. So a black spot becomes, or a problem becomes, a syndrome when we let it take over our lives and we forget the blessings. Wait, there's more. This is really high tech. So this is the thought that really speaks to me from Dr. David Alt, a Science of Mind teacher, I think. I've read him in several places.
And musician.
Everything that shows up in my life is exactly what I need to move me to my next level of greatness. Take a breath and take that in and hold it. Wow, how does that feel? I'm going to tell you a story about one of my heroes, a family member who was my grandfather. And 100 years ago, in 1921, he was kind of, and these are to use my aunt's words, his daughter that I spoke to at length yesterday, and Aline called him pretty much a ne'er-do-well. He was a good old boy out in West Texas. He just loved life. And in 1921, he had a new wife and a baby on the way, my dad. And he went out hunting with the boys. And they head out with their shotguns. And he's driving this open car, and somebody set his shotgun, leaned it up against the gear shift, and wouldn't you know it, he got stuck in the mud, and he was fighting with the gear shift, and the rifle fell down and shot him in the knee. And well, in Texas we say, if it weren't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. So they realized that he was losing a lot of blood, and somebody had a belt on his leg and made a little tourniquet. And it took them from 1 in the afternoon to get the car out of the mud. And they headed down the road, ran out of gas. So a farmer came out and siphoned some gasoline out of his tractor, put it in the car, and by then someone had called a doctor, so he came out and gave my granddaddy some morphine. And this is really West Texas. There's a lot of Texas between spots. So they got to Big Springs, and by then it was 7 o'clock at night, and he'd lost a lot of blood. He was out on morphine, and I can appreciate that from my experience 7 years ago. I didn't care. Cut my leg off. And at that point, my grandmother arrived at the hospital, and the doctor said, well, we think that if we just operate, your husband isn't going to make it, but we can amputate the leg and save the man. So she made that there's Jesus. That life-changing decision. She said, lose the leg and save the man. And that changed his life from a ne'er-do-well to a, oh my gosh, pull myself up by the bootstraps. The choice he had was to linger in that black spot syndrome with all the good old boys saying, well, you've never done anything before. He dropped out of school at 6th grade, always been day laborer. But he instead started taking correspondence courses. And it was a new field called refrigeration. And he became an engineer specialized in refrigeration and went to work for Southland Ice Company. He rode the train into Dallas one day to go get fitted for an artificial leg, and a man came up and sat beside him and said, "Well, was that woman on the platform your wife that kissed you by?" He says, "Yeah." He said, "Well, when I lost my leg, I lost my wife, so count yourself lucky." And my granddad said, "You don't have a leg?" He says, "No, I've got a prosthesis." And so that really encouraged my granddad to hang in there and work to keep that leg, to make it work. Because in 1921, 1922, you can imagine what prostheses were. Well, with his correspondence courses and with his title of engineer, he started doing well. And he was also astute enough to realize that ice wasn't going to be a necessity as people were buying real refrigerators for their homes. He decided that this project that Spirit was giving to him, this carburetor that needed inventing to put on farm equipment, needed to be done by him. So he and the family moved into the big city of Dallas. He was able to find investors and built a small manufacturing plant to build carburetors and then regulators. He got patents. And this is a man with a 6th grade education and a lot of spunk. So that black spot became smaller and smaller. I never thought of Granddad as a handicapped. He was just bigger than life. And an entrepreneur and very creative and inventive. That the fact that he lost part of his leg was a nuisance. It's a nuisance. And how many of us let our problems become more than nuisances? We just let them take over our lives. And we never had a family gathering that my granddad didn't thank my grandmother in front of everybody for choosing the man and to lose the leg. So he was grateful, and he expressed that as often as he could. So those are some things that I think have shaped my life. And I got to work in the factory. There's nothing like assembling carburetors in an unair-conditioned plant to get me back to the university. In Texas, you know. So that was motivation. So I would like to share with you today some things that I think help to eliminate from our lives, and some things that help us by adding them into our lives. And one of the things I really enjoy is every day getting up and reading this guide from Centers for Spiritual Living. And the question that they asked yesterday was, the question is, are the obstacles that you see in life real or imagined? And so many times I see people voicing a subtle fear that they say, well, I just might as well not try to do that because of an imagined obstacle. So that's a question to ask yourself. Is the black spot, is it really real? The first thing I would suggest doing, and I had a really good quote from John Waterhouse, and I can conjure it into my mind because I have memory pills. It is, stop the blame game. Stop the blame game. And what John Waterhouse said was, the minute that we look for someone to blame, we lose our energy for finding a solution. As Peggy's fond of saying, when we looking for people to blame or situations, something to blame, we lose the energy that needs to go toward the solution. So it's the blame game. As Peggy often says, where the mind goes, the energy flows. So the minute we start blaming, you see that black spot get bigger and bigger. And you know, the news does it all the time. Let's go find a scapegoat for something that we thought should have gone this way, but it went that way. And it all went the right way. It all went the right way anyway. So the blame game, stop it. Just stop it. Don't do it. And the second one, I took a Dale Carnegie class way back before I came into the teaching of Science of Mind. And the three things that the little golden book they gave us was so cute. The number one was, do not criticize, condemn, or complain. And those are lifetime exercises. And it's all in my mind. Don't criticize, don't condemn, don't complain. And so many really successful organizations take those three things and they liberate your energy when we stop condemning things, complaining, criticizing. So that's the Dale Carnegie course, free.
That's it?
That's the, yeah. There was a lot of other stuff.
tough
And,
enough already?
we had to do all these leadership things and stuff, but that was the part that I'm still working on. Not criticize, condemn, or complain. And the third one was this great book. The third thing I would share with you is the book by the title, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And I believe that was also by Dale Carnegie. And what he is saying is, it's not that we don't have situations that need facing and working out, but the crux of the whole book was, if there is a situation that needs handling, take care of it. if there's nothing you can do about it, then don't worry about it. So many people, dear, dear friends that I love a lot, they're informed, they're watching the news, they're repeating horrific stories, and I go, well, can you do anything about that? No. Well, then, why do you care? Why are you repeating? And it's probably not true, then tomorrow it'll be a different angle that makes that even more untrue. And I love Will Rogers, who said, and he was a journalist, and he said, don't believe anything you read in the papers, and only half of what you see with your own eyes. and I've taken that to heart, because half of what I see, I'm only getting half the story. It's like when you run into people going the wrong way on our streets. You never know why they had to do that, because 3 other streets were closed, and I've had to do that. I mean, it's not that I'm a bad person just because I'm going one way, that the arrow says to go the other one. And my Canadian neighbor that's always reminding me that this is a one-way street, and I always tell her, I'm still only going one way. So, not a problem. So those are the 3 don'ts. You know, as I say, you could take the professor out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the professor. I have all these 3 don'ts. So the first one was stop blaming. Improves the relationships so much when we just quit blaming our significant other for stuff. What was it, 3 C's? They encourage us to do is look in the mirror and put the 3 C's. Because what do we complain about most? Oh God, why do I wake up with that pimple? Oh my gosh, why do I have brown spots? Quit criticizing yourself when you look in the mirror. Just say, I love you. And then the other one is, don't worry. Be more than happy. Be ecstatic. Be fulfilled. So what do we do when we've freed up all that mind energy? What are the 3 do's? Let me see if I can remember. I go back to my reading for, this was this morning. And did I mention today was my grandfather's birthday? He came onto this earth 124 years ago. What a bright light in my life. It says here, every issue in our life is determined by our consciousness. When we do our inner work, we become a conscious partner in our conscious evolution. All we could ever want is right where we are. We simply need to accept it. Accepting is mental. Spirit has no limitations. We may have a consciousness of lack and limitation and therefore experience those conditions. But that's on us because God can do it all for us, only through us. So the first do is just know who you are. Know your philosophy of life. That we're spiritual beings. And know what you stand for or you'll fall for anything. And a story I'll share with you was my first outing after the surgery was, of course, to the beauty shop. And there I was. I still had the brace on, and I was, they were wheeling me around this tiny shop and over to get my hair washed, over to get it colored and cut. You don't think I show up this great looking, I'm just naturally. But one of the clients and a man were talking about, oh gosh, geez, the world is so awful. It's just terrible. And they turned to me for agreement. And I went, my world is wonderful. With this brace, and can't hardly move around this place, and can't breathe with a mask on. That they stopped and they said, well, where do you live? I said, about 2 blocks from here. But I live in consciousness with a knowing that everything is great. All is well. The world is not, I'm not watching that kind of news. So when someone confronts you with the idea that things are not going well, what do you say? Can you stand there and honestly say, well, things are great? And to do that, I think it takes counting our blessings every day, keeping a gratitude list, especially for the people around us. And that example of my granddad, recognizing my grandma for making that tough decision. And I'm always grateful to have had the book, The 1 Minute, what was it? 1 Minute Manager, come into my hands just when I was managing about 30 salespeople. And the deal of, as I was wanting to be a rising star in the company, I was always finding, well, why didn't they do their reports on time? If they told me they sold all that, I'd be... And then it says, we just focus on what someone is doing right and wonderful. Boy, when I started using that in my personal relationships, take 1 full minute to tell someone what they did right and good. Wow. And you know what happens? It bounces back, and you begin to feel like you're doing things right too. I have an internal, I used to have a really powerful internal critical parent. Anybody else have a critical parent you haven't taken out and shot yet? Well, that was the best thing I could do to win the battle with the critical parent, was the 1 minute of telling myself, I really did good today. Tell yourself that. Really, really did good today. And the third do, I would say, my word for it is practicing the presence. Practicing the presence. That's not the same as saying meditate, because people have so much, oh, I can't meditate. I can't control my mind. I can't do that. I can't do that. Practicing the presence. And Friday night we started a class of meditation, the art of meditation, and the book we're using is by Joel Goldsmith. For him, the entire point of meditating is to be in contact with God. So I invite you right now to think about, what words do you use to describe the presence? Is it happiness? And bathe yourself in those words. Goodness. Practice the presence. If you're surrounded by beauty, you say, gosh, this is God. God is all around me. Take it in. Wow. Are you surrounded by God beings? Well, yes, you are. Turn to each other and you can kind of bump elbows. And namaste means the God in me beholds the God in you. So I encourage you to look at each other and go, I behold God in you. I behold the divine in you. I behold God in you. You are so beautiful. You can reach out, not physically, but emotionally, and feel that bouncing back. Other people feeling the God presence in you. Use your imagination to practice the presence. The imagination is one of the God qualities that we studied in ministerial. And when we use that power of imagination, we are free agents. We may choose to imagine a world full of crap, or that's a French word, or we can imagine a world that everybody is on our team. Everybody here sitting around, you're on my team. You showed up and you're listening very politely. And the other thing about this presence, to me the presence is joyful, loving, happy. And I'm going to steal something I learned today at our early morning celebration from a woman in Peru who's she's a kick. She's so enthusiastic. She said, imagine that you've got a bowl of cream in your hand. So you hold it out, and this cream is laughing cream. And you can start out with a little smile cream, take it and rub it over your mask. So, when you start smiling, your eyes will crinkle up. Go ahead, do it. Start laughing a little bit. Laugh. Take some more cream. So whatever you were thinking about that was hard and heavy, it's just going to wipe that away. Oh, I have happy thoughts. Thank God. Joyful thoughts. Oh. And that laughter that I hear so well. Everybody all together laugh. That releases endorphins, and they go out and bounce off of each other of you, and people you come into contact with. It's contagious, and suddenly the universe is working for you to fulfill your divine purpose. And everything that comes into our experience is to push us on to our next highest, greatest good. The other gift I thought would be nice to share was my grandfather wrote his memoirs in the 1970s. And so here's a picture of him. So you get an idea of bringing these principles of gratitude, shrinking the black spot, and making gratitude and the blessings that surround us. And the book is, it's about his personality, and it was a joy. I mean, I've really felt his presence since I had my little incident with Miney, saying to me, "You think it's tough? Just read the book. Just read the book." And I'm like, "Oh my God," because he still had buckshot in his knee, trying to fit it into a prosthesis. So that shrinks our problems sometimes when we compare with others. So don't do that. So I invite you to take a breath and laugh and love and let the presence flow over you all the time, everywhere, and no matter what situation. So glad you're here.
About a thing. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry.
Steve, you want to tell us about where we're at with the website, how to give thousands of dollars to us all in one shot, empty out your bank account, and about the prayer circle?
Well, you know, we have CSLChapala.com, our website. Check it out. On there is the list of services, also classes, and you can also request prayers. And those prayers come to me first, and then I bring in every Wednesday morning. 3 ministers and myself get together. We pray on those for a week, and then we also send those prayers out to other ministers and practitioners. So check out the website. And of course, there are donation buttons. Feel free to donate freely with great gratitude.
We have a way of honoring people who have had a long time of service. Now, who is now an emeritus practitioner who served over 20 years? Steve? I think it would be Steve. Yay, Steve! Congratulations. It's kind of a nice little thing. I didn't make it to 20 years.
To share that on your belt.
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody see
Gratitude
the-
turns what we have into enough. Always turns what we have into enough. It's a powerful catalyst for happiness. It is the spark that lifts a fire of joy in your soul. And no one has ever become poor by giving. Thank you.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy.
Wow. I'm happy. I hope you are too. I'm happy I'm here. I'm happy you all came. And I'm happy that we will continue, in whatever level we will continue, to offer this opportunity of all of the things that Maureen taught us today to be more present in our lives. I'd like to do a little spiritual mind treatment. So right here, right now, I open up to Spirit, knowing that we are all of the room, the space, the thought, the presence, the spiritual. We are enough, and we make everything that is enough, as Daisy Beth reminded us. And I declare right here and now that we take on the admonishments or the counsel that Maureen has given us today. That we let the phone be okay. That everything that happens is just for our next best, greatest good, including the phone ring. There'll be something there. And I want to just give us 2 or 3 little things that go along with her spots. In the spirit of Emmett Fox and the Golden Key, we'll ignore the negative and take on the positive of focusing on the 3 positive things. And I want to recharacterize them a little bit, that we spiritualize the material and that we're materializing the spiritual. That we have an attitude of gratitude because what we appreciate appreciates. And we follow the song from the 3 birds, that we don't worry, we be happy. We recognize that we are in the presence always, and as Steve reminded us in the beginning, there is no spot where God is not. And maybe, instead of saying even in the black spot, based on what we're learning here today, we say especially in the black spot. It's those obstacles, it's the things that turn out differently than we thought, the opportunity for growth, as Tim was saying earlier, where we recognize that what's in our way is on our way. And I release these words into the law, knowing that in the spirit of the presence that we are, that works in, through, around, and for us, in the quote that she gave us about God can only do for us what God can do through us. We allow ourselves to open up to be that channel, to release this into the word of law, knowing that it is so as it is said, and so it is.
So it is.
Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out.